Better now?
Yes, better.
Sound check. Sound check.
You also sound better. Whatever you're doing, if you could go like 4 more notches, that would be cool. But that's up to you and like whatever you have the power to do.
Sound check. 1, 2.
Yo, you sound good.
About me? Sound all right?
You're a little quiet still, but I mean, now you're not doing. Bug it there.
Okay, yeah.
Bug it there. All right, so I'm gonna do like a little intro thing. Hold on. I'm gonna hit a button real quick. Hit a button. Yo, so welcome to here while we work on sound or don't work on sound. It doesn't really matter. I am doing interviews, if you haven't seen them, just to get behind like the RP kind of idea and stuff beyond a character, you know, beyond how to design a character and how to, you know, make the story, beyond that into like how everyone can make characters that are more in depth, or how everyone can be more aware of other people and all of that junk, right? So that's what I'm trying to get at with these interviews. This is the only dual interview I've ever done, so that's cool. And also, I don't really know how it's gonna work and what's gonna happen, so I tried to figure that out, obviously. Also, not to be preferential, I just put you in, you know, alphabetical order.
I'm still the best.
Okay, well, actually, your character names are backwards. Dang. Oh well. So,
That's better.
Yo, that's better. Wow, whatever that was good.
Right.
So, how's it going? Welcome to here. Welcome to this random Discord that I pulled you into and all sorts of junk. Of course, you've seen some of these interviews, and I didn't turn on any of the lights, so I will. But you've seen some of these interviews, so the like general idea is how are we gonna do this? First off, I guess one and then the other. You can answer questions, or if you think one or the other has a better answer, you can, you know, just grab that, and that person can speak, or, you know, do whatever. We're here to improv anyway, so it doesn't matter. But how do you create characters, and more importantly, how did you create these two very specific, very unique, very specialized characters?
How to create two weirdos.
Yeah.
Is the push to talk buzzing or anything for you?
Nope. Sounds normal to me, but
All right. Now, these two characters started as we started last season. We actually had a museum last season, and we had. Can you still hear me?
Yep. No, you're good. I'm just walking around doing stuff. Sorry.
All right. No, that's fine. Last season we had the museum, and it was more like a test museum. We did put up a sign at the Freeport that said, "Don't use the toilet until you see us. Do not, read books until you see us." And we were known as Grimble Low Oddities Museum at the time. And that was based off the character names of Nan Grimble and Bernard Lowe. And those two characters were actually, we created those as a test drive character. We were not going to do a museum this season necessarily. What we were going to do was we were going to be Lord Simon and Lady Tilda Thistletuft, a married couple that was looking for their lost son. And it was based on Thurston and Lovey Howell from Gilligan's Island. So it was a bit of a fish out of water sort of situation where we would be just two people who did not have a clue what was going on in the world. But we were going to, do our best to find our lost son who was lost at sea. And it never came out the way we wanted it to. And then it came down to the season beginning, and we talked it over, and we're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to launch this? And I decided I feel more comfortable as Bogatha because I've done her for a few seasons on Gigi and on ZZ. And I said, I think I can, continue doing Bogatha. What if we play siblings and you play my brother? Bogatha originally started she's based off of Mad Madam Mim from Sword in the Stone. I decided that's her character model is based off Mad Madam Mim. And I decided, okay, I'm going to just build this weirdo character that's like a swamp witch kind of character. And she kind of started out a lot meaner and more gruff than she ended up. I'm cautious if I play a female character. I never want to play really a weak character if I'm a female character because I think women are very strong and I don't want to send a message of weakness necessarily. So I try to send this message of strength but she was a little too strong. So I had to take my foot off the gas with her. And so I came up with a lighter version of the original Bogatha. She was a little meaner, I would say. She wasn't mean, she was just very forthright. So I took the foot off the gas and I made her more like what she was. And then from that, I used the exact same character model and we just crafted Boggart and just clicked on the male character instead of female. If you click on female on Atlas, he'll look just like Bogatha. They're identical. And then you click on male, he looks like Boggart. So once we got settled on that, we were like, okay, we can run with this. So that's kind of where the characters came from.
Yes. So, well, I mean, I'm not saying, Shrimps, Bogatha was played by a man, but you can say that if you would like to. But I think that it doesn't matter to me. Like, Bogatha was just Bogatha, right? And that there are other characters like that I've met that I couldn't tell. And I even asked some in a different interview, I asked the question, hey, I can't tell, and I'm not trying to tell, force or anything, but what do you think of that? And they were like, well, I don't think it matters either. So they didn't tell me, and I still don't know the answer.
Yeah. Well, I think that identity fluctuates. I think people hit the middle of the road sometimes. I think you can choose, but I don't want to limit myself with RP. I don't want to narrow myself through RP. I think it's excellent if you can branch out and become whatever you want to through RP. And I think there's people trapped in their lives, and there are people looking for a chance to escape their lives and run into RP and become, if you want to become powerful and cut a path through the world, or if you want to become a complete weirdo who can run a museum filled with weird stuff, then you can do that as well.
All right. Forget all these questions because they don't matter, and there's two of you, so answering them would take a while. So forget all those questions.
I'm sorry if I answer wrong.
No, there is no wrong answer. My point is more, you have your own streams now. Answer the basic questions on your own. I care more about other junk anyway, so you can like if someone wants to see behind the veil of the museum, they can go to your stream, is basically what I'm saying. And also, heads up to everyone else, both of these people have started, testing the waters of streaming, so check them out. I will eventually shout them out in the stream, so do that. But so Boggart and Bogatha are very, very, very different, even though they're brother and sister, right? One's very, I guess, well, to say in your face is a strong way to say it, but one is more running the museum capable kind of stuff, and it seems like the other one is more handling all the things and making everything function and junk like that. So I'd like to ask, if it's cool, IT guy, do you think that's an accurate way to put the dynamic?
I think so. For me, I don't really have the voice that KelleScope does, and for me, it's just I'm not the dramatic type to give those words.
Well, so I think the back and forth, the dichotomy was super good. And like when you would stand in between both of them, there was like a constant back and forth, obviously because you both know each other and you're comfortable with each other. Um, did you take any steps to make Boggart his own unique entity as well?
In some respects, yeah, and uh, uh, I do have a sister, and so you have that rivalry with each other, and that's why I said sometimes, "Wow, I worship the quicksand you walk on," and those little puns.
Okay, okay, I got you. Um, since there was an obvious power dynamic, or I'm attributing one, um, do you think that limited either one of you when you were playing out your characters that you made?
Power dynamic. No, I don't think so. I think it added RP to us that we could play off of that as siblings. Siblings would have that push and pull and tug of power dynamic amongst themselves anyhow. So that was something that we could actually use to our advantage, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Tallest.
So you're
Tall guy.
exactly the same model, but one of you is taller. Perfect. um I'm drawing a lot of these ideas and concepts from when Ewok and I ran a restaurant, and I spent basically all of today arguing with people about that. So I have a lot of thoughts that I want to try and ask you both about. Um, did putting up your times of when the museum would run actually work?
To an extent. Then there were times near the end of the day when people would show up and it would be like, well, we're after hours now because the tour could take an hour, it could take an hour and a half, and it could take more than an hour and a half, depending on what sort of shenanigans occurred, if someone slurped an egg or passed out at the keg. So you had to be flexible in how long you were going to be in there and how many people were going to ask questions and who was going to try to talk. And then at the end of all of it, sometimes it would be if they came in at 9 p.m. and we wanted to close, we'd be fine. And then stretch it out another hour and a half. It's 10:30 p.m. and now someone's showing up. So do you turn them away? Do you let them in? Maybe it was their only chance to come. So we had a tendency to stay over hours, and so no.
Did either of you ever hear that someone didn't know when you were open?
Yes, we did hear that. We heard it a lot in the beginning, but we didn't have a set time in the beginning. We actually
okay.
kind of threw the door open before we were ready. And then we posted a sign that had our times on there. And it's like, if you're seeing the other sign, you should be able to see, what the times are. So I don't know. People weren't able to find us at the right time sometimes, but we tried. We tried to be consistent with when we were available.
I asked those questions mostly because it's been my experience in the restaurant that people just didn't read it, didn't care, it didn't matter, they didn't do the conversion, they didn't remember. And I also saw Sub Rosa, like, sure, they were there sometimes when they were asleep or whatever, but I remember talking to people and them saying like, oh, I don't know when Sub Rosa's there, or I'm confused even though their numbers are posted. So I just wanted to get y'all's opinion as well, since it seemed like you did it with the time for so long.
And sometimes we walked around. We would go into areas in town and visit with people, and we tell them about the museum and so forth, and we created some RP from that. because we saw a monkey with its tail hanging in the door, and so that's how we got the story of the monkey and wanting to destroy the island and so forth. And we told people about it.
All right, so two thoughts there. First off, I got a limited amount of permission because, as you may know, I am an admin on GG. Everything, the thoughts and opinions expressed here, not necessarily representative of any specific server or anything like that, TM. But some of the things in your museum were ticket items that I had seen come through as tickets. I don't know if you know that, but when you told stories, I knew, hey, that's the ticket they're talking about. I know the story behind it, and also you're telling me this, story that you guys RP'd out, right? How? Or I guess more like, what was it like to take all of these oddities, these game-breaking things, these things that shouldn't happen, and show them off to people?
I would start by putting together the oddity, and then from there craft a story around it, because I almost had to see it in person first, because there were details buried within that build that you could not think about until you could see the actual object, and then you think, oh, I can add that into the story to spice things up. But like the Shimmer figure story, where the Shimmer figure comes for the person on the ship, that actually happened to me in game. I was traveling on the top of a mast, crossed a Shimmer. I don't know if I desynced or sheared off of the top of the mast, but the body evidently went underwater and stayed there because I swam all the way to the next island. There was nothing in the world. Everything disappeared. And when I got to the island, I still couldn't breathe. So I'm assuming the body desynced, and it was just my character was standing on dry land, and I drowned and died, and I had to respawn back at home.
And that was Semi.
Yeah, that was the prior character back on Dark Side. I played Semi on Dark Side. I don't know if you ever met Semi back then.
Is that the person that you mentioned, the tall, I guess orange hair person?
Yeah, he was tall. He was max height, max skinny. We lived on Goldview Island. Ewok was playing Toothpick Tim at the time, and they were our next door neighbors. I don't know if you knew Ewok at that time.
Nope, but I robbed you, so thanks.
And the thing about that is we didn't even know you robbed us because it was our characters to always be nice and help out everyone that came to visit us.
I know. Yeah. All that
Don't know
junk felt evil. I don't know.
I don't know if I skipped over something about the oddities. You were asking kind of about how they were created. It was a combination of things I have heard in the past.
Yeah.
I had a lot of inspirations that went into it, sort of Adam's Family, the subversive double entendre, bait and switch, a misapplication of reality sort of thing, Grimm's fairy tales, John Waters to a certain extent, Edward Gorey, Twilight Zone. All of these things play into different stories that you can pick up and think, okay, I can make something out of this.
All right, so a ton of the oddities I've seen before. I guessed right on the upside down cow. I knew about the book and how it worked. I'd seen that happen before. I could kind of understand the Shimmer, but now that you say it like full out, that's never happened to me that I've seen in the game. But similar things have happened, like when you wind up with just your arms or whatever. But I've seen a bunch of them in game happen, and I think it's really cool that some people have seen some of them. The ones that you made up, though, the ones where you built an entire prop, a really long fish, whatever, those were clearly like, putting a bunch of the same eco item up or something like that. And I saw your picture of the toilet bunny when it actually was a toilet bunny. But you, and I don't know how much IT guy is doing because I don't know how much happened behind the scenes, but it seems like you're doing a ton of work and a ton of thought, and you're designing like a building that is constant RP, right? So
That was the intent, was to build a location. We wanted something different. We had always been traders and breeders, but there was this weird aspect to all of it. Back when I played Semi, like we had sleepers and I built a mausoleum to the sleepers, and I would put on there, "To dear Henry, we liked you a lot. We made you a nice place to rot," for example. And we would put sleepers in there, but then put plaques, mausoleum plaques on the outside of the building. And so there was always this weird, like, it was almost like it was building in the back of my mind that we were going to eventually launch into some sort of strangeness. Simi brought the giraffe, asking people, does your giraffe have giraffe teeth or human teeth? Does it have the human teeth? And then we had things like the whistling well, and we were going to bury people in sharks. It's where you chum the waters with a living, breathing person, and then you take your loved one and hold them by the ankles. And once the sharks have arrived, you let the sharks eat your loved one. Then we flatten the shark and your loved one with an elephant, and then we roll them up and we bury the shark.
Okay. I think when I robbed you the first time, first off, I thought you would follow me. Second off, I thought that character, the Simi character, was weird the entire time. Like, I think maybe it's something that you're doing with your voice or something like that. But the Oddities Museum, I don't think would have been as good without Boggart, because it's like he's like the straight man, right? Like this,
Yes.
I'm normal, I'm here, and this is real kind of thing. So I think both of you together is really important.
Oh, yes, definitely. No, I could not do it by myself. It'd be too much. You have to have that dichotomy between the two people to make one person even weirder almost, and then make the other person more of the straight man, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yesterday, in the interview with Denver Ken, he mentioned the concept of yes and KelleScope has been trying to teach me that theory behind it, where you kind of lead out into something else, and you basically turn around, hear it, and then you respond to it as an RPer.
Yeah. It's like an improv idea or an improv staple or whatever. I say it a lot and I tell it to people a lot, but at the same time I hate it because I like to say no, and I like to take what someone said and like 90-degree it into a different direction, right? And that's why I think Boxer was so good once I became more aware, is because I would say no all the time to whatever they said, and then I had to continue the sentence. So he spoke really slow, but it was always no, and then I never stopped speaking between the no and the something else, right? It was always no, but here. So it's definitely like a core principle that we have to do, all of us. Do you find that doing something like that always gives you more RP, or is it only to be used at certain times?
For the yes and concept?
Yeah, the idea of going along with whatever is in front of you or the scenario.
I just always make an assumption that I'm going to accept what the other character's reality is. You know, because we bring to the table with the oddities museum. People could have said, "Oh, that's just a bunch of fish stuck together," and it would break our illusion. You know, we're just
Yeah.
trying to craft something out of nothing, and we only have what we can work with. So we're doing our best, but we want that acknowledgement that yes, that reality is acceptable to me, and we're moving forward with our conversation with each other. So I do think that I think it has to be there in order for us to suspend disbelief and make our way into this magical world of RP.
Yeah. Um. So. So. Oh, I'm gonna make Gob really mad. Okay, so what you're basically saying is that when you do the yes and theory or the principle, and someone says, "No, I'm this. This is my RP. I'm a big bad pirate. I'm whatever." Um, they have this like bubble of RP around them, this bubble of story, and you're in it now because you're close enough proximity wise or whatever. What's the idea here? How do you help other people, and how do you resist being drawn into people who are locked, like they can't do anything other than what they think their character is?
It's a difficult question. You've got to. You're saying someone who can't necessarily get out of the routine of who they are. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Hey, also, I know that my questions are like convoluted, but I'm like trying to work
No,
through ideas and stuff. So, yes, the question is when there's a character who is locked in whatever they're doing. For example, I'm a hardcore pirate. I want to go out and fight. That like you entering that bubble of RP, how do you not get drawn along with it because they're so strongly set on it, and B, how do you help them, or how do you give them more opportunities to do something else?
I've had a long history of disarming people with weirdness. Like they think that they've got it all figured out how they're going to interact with me, and it doesn't always work out that way because I can completely disarm somebody. Like we crashed a ship into another ship at someone's dock. We get off the ship and they're angry about it, and then we're like, "No, it wasn't us. We were trying to teach the tiger how to drive the ship. She doesn't know what she's doing. We're so sorry." So you just try to disarm someone as best you can, and I like doing that to people in a way because it throws the RP in a direction you never know where you're going after that.
Oh, poor Claudia.
Well, I would turn around and say I'm too dumb to do that. I think about things ahead of time. As Pierre, I thought about scams ahead of time, and I lied a lot in character, but that scenario is like so intense to me. Like I've ruined someone else's ship, or maybe, they're mad or whatever. I get clouded and I can't think things like that. You know what I mean? So do you have any tips for someone who might not be able to do that all the time to get there?
I just not necessarily tips. I just try to think of something that would make interesting RP. If it's going to be negative RP only, then at least try to make it interesting. I've got this philosophy that if you're going to be a pirate, it's going to be pretty negative RP for the person that's being victimized, so to speak. So you better be an amazing person at RP to be a pirate, because I feel like the player deserves it. The player deserves the amazing RP for their exchange of their characters' sadness over what's happened to them, in a way. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's an analogy, sort of. I'm trying to say, you don't always know how to disarm someone or how to further the RP or make it interesting, but you do your best. And if you're just starting out and you're new to the world, then you figure out what suits you. It may suit you to cut a swath through the world and destroy everyone in your path. That may be why you're here. That may be why you are doing your RP. I don't know.
So I talk to these people all the time about like RP and stuff, and they're like agreeing with you, so it's really good to see. So this is definitely like a worthwhile interview for both of you, or like for me, from both of you.
Awesome. And I saw where you were asking, I don't know who, but you were asking about new characters that start out in the world. And I was thinking when I was new, I was so shy, everyone's shy when they start. And I was afraid if I say something, I'm going to say the wrong thing. How do I walk up to someone and talk to them? And I got to thinking, what I would do is do something weird. Because if you're in the background doing something weird, someone's probably going to approach you and ask, what in the world are you doing? Like if you're at the Freeport, maybe if you're laying down, standing up, they're going to come up to you and be like, what are you doing over here? Like, why do you keep doing that? And you say, oh, I have to warm my muscles up. I'm getting ready to take down a bunch of trees and hand the wood off to this guy. So I got to warm up first. But it initiates that conversation without you having to interrupt a conversation or walk into something. And you're getting someone who already wants to talk to you. So it's, an idea.
And for me, I've been kind of like socially awkward. So when I go up to someone, it's like hi, and not really saying much or whatever. In this season, it was like Lord Timothy. He would come up and he introduced himself for the first time, and the first thing I did was I bowed to him because he was a lord, and so I kind of interacted with him and asked him how he was doing and if he needed anything and so forth.
Yeah. I think that when it comes down to it, not only are the characters, what are they called? Ah, dang, I used the word like 4 times. Caricatures or they're like larger than life, right? All the characters are larger than life versions of ourselves and all of that junk. But I think that the skills that you need to use to have good interactions, not good RP, but like the beginning of a good interaction and the middle of a good interaction and respect during an interaction, I think all of those, I think we have to be larger than life about them too. And I think that's where it's really difficult for a lot of people, because I don't go up to people and do small talk. I don't talk to people right off. And if I do, it's not, hey, what's your name? It's, hey, something incredibly specific, like, I only like Venom from Marvel and you have a Venom figurine. Let's freaking talk about that only, and I don't care about anything else, right? So, but obviously that's not good. That's not a good interaction necessarily. It's just, I'm selfish or whatever. So would you agree that the skills that we might need in real life might be easier in RP because we're behind a character, but they still have to be not only used, but used aggressively and excessively, for example?
I think in real life that I'm a very shy person. If I'm in a group of people, I'm not going to be the person. I don't like to be in front of a crowd. I wouldn't want to be the person leading a museum tour, for instance. But I think in RP, it gives us a chance to step outside of our comfort zone. You know, I'm comfortable being shy and standing in the background and not wanting to be in the spotlight. But in RP, I may, I'm also, I'm also uncomfortable with silence, especially when it comes to RP. I feel like I'm not giving someone their chance.
I know.
So I try to come up with something that keeps it moving.
Yeah, I definitely know already. And that's cool. Like, we need those people, I think. Because I would play Boxster and I would be silent on purpose. A, because I didn't want to say anything and I was uncomfortable. But B, it played into my character. And I started doing it to watch people like try and fill things in. And it was like this, like, it was like a magic trick. And it felt kind of mean also. But I did it all the time. And it's really interesting you say, like, oh, I'm shy, I'm awkward. That's the thing I hear over and over and over and over and over when I talk to people.
I
But
think RP draws shy people. I think it draws people who are awkward. I think it draws people who feel on the outside somehow. And it gives us all a place where we can have a mask in a way. We can be this different character and we can build a different perception of ourselves through that.
all right, I'll ask you both. I personally have a goal, maybe possibly for the next season, not necessarily, gonna say what that goal is, because now that I've had interviews where I say I always have a goal, now I'm thinking about it. But let's say you started out in RP, as you said, you're a shy human, and that's cool. You're not shy in RP now at all, right?
Yeah, that's right. But when I started out, I was very shy in RP because I was nervous, new to the world, and didn't understand even the mechanics of the game yet. I've never played single player Atlas. I jumped straight into RP, and I had never played Arc prior to that, so I didn't understand some of those basic mechanics either, and was just lost in the world. That's where Simi came from. He was very much he was like an innocent child almost, because I was an innocent child to that world.
Yep. And that's how I got. That's the exact same path I took. The exact same path I took, and it's the exact same path I hear a lot of people take. Okay, so let's assume we're all traveling down this same rough path, except for GobTube, and I don't want to call him out, but he is unique and different. If we are following down this path, when you started, would you have had the skills and the consciousness or whatever to do an interview like this on a stream in front of currently 12 people?
No, not in the beginning. It's through RP I have broadened myself. I think that RP has a great value to it, especially to people who feel shy and who feel maybe neglected in social situations. It can give them the chance to shine and to develop that, not only their character, but to develop and internally.
Yep, I agree.
And even right now, I'm shaking nervously. So
Don't worry, I've been there. Every single poem was like that, so don't worry about that. You're cool. And I also freak out about streaming all the time, so don't worry about that either. But I would like to point out that if you have a weird interaction at a dentist office, for example, your human path might not have prepared you for that, but seeing chaos or whatever over and over again in RP and then you improving and reacting to it, would you agree that it has given you some sort of tool or at least the experience to where when that occurs, some weird interaction, you're more prepared in real life?
Yes, in a way. I feel like also it was always there in a way. It's just in real life, you can be too shy to bring it to the forefront. I was the child in class who would say the funny thing, but so quietly that the child sitting next to me was the one that heard it. And then they would yell it for the class and they would laugh. So it was clear I was, on the right path, but yeah, I could have never been the one to steal the spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Not to
So
brag. Oh, go ahead.
I think it helps. I think it helps bring things out. I don't think that any of us who are shy or withdrawn, I don't think that it's not really us. It's just society. We're a little more afraid of society than we are, of our internal monologue. And I think we all have very sharp monologues because we're not in the spotlight and we're sort of talking to ourselves all the time, just just like we do in RP.
Yeah. Not to brag, but I will for a second. I've run a marathon. It was awful. And in doing that, I ran an amount of miles, right? So when you start out prepping for junk like that, you run 5 miles, okay? And then you run 10 miles and then you're like at 13 and that's half a marathon and you're like, wow, I'm, doing half a marathon. Okay. When you're at 5 miles, you're like, this is freaking hard. I'm gonna die. And then when you're at 10 miles, every time you start what 5 miles is. Like every time 5 miles has this feeling. And then at 13 miles, 10 miles has a feeling and you know it. And then when you've run the full marathon, everything up to that, like you just know how far a mile is all the time. And when you run, you just know because you've done it so many times. And I think that RP is that same thing where you're talking to a human that you've never met over and over and over and over. And most of the time they're kind of boring, but sometimes they're really exciting or whatever. Sometimes they're aggressive, but it doesn't matter because when it happens in the real world, you still did it. You still know, like it's in you, already, and you can do it better because you've done it 1,000 times, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was me answering my own question, I guess.
No, exactly. I understand what you're saying. It's like I say, I think it's in us to be. I think we as human beings are born to be in a spotlight. It's just some of us have interactions through our lives that force us to be more shy of that. And I think that through RP, it allows us to connect to other people who have also had a similar experience, maybe, and then we can all together help each other. Because I also through RP try to help bring out other people. If I see that someone's struggling or maybe they're new to the world, then you try to help that person sort of kind of give them something to chew on so that you can get moving in a direction with them.
Okay. So, I got a great idea. It sounds like you've been trying to help IT guy with like the improv side of things, right? The wackiness, the whatever skill.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, IT guy, as the person who's trying to learn that stuff, what do you think KelleScope has taught you or shown you that other people could also apply? Are there any lessons that you didn't or that you have now that you didn't have before?
I've been experimenting with different things. Like we did have a spider. This was the first season that spiders were tameable, and so I looked at something that was a crystal. I forget what the crystal is, but it looks like spider eggs.
Mhm.
and so I would throw those down. And I learned from KelleScope to improv that this is not crystal. This is spider eggs, and if you hold on to them long enough, then they'll hatch and spread.
So how did so this was like a completely your own idea kind of um idea? I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I took that and kind of ran with it, and then KelleScope would elaborate onto it and would say, "Oh, have you seen the spider? It can go through a door," and so took that and said, "Oh, it can go through the smallest crack of a door."
We didn't come up with that directly. We had a neighbor and they handed us calcite and said, "We had your spiders here for a while and they left this behind. We think it's spider eggs." So we didn't actually come up with spider eggs, but we came up with the idea that they like to nest in giraffe ears. I don't know why giraffes get a hard road with me as far as the human teeth and the nesting spiders, but they do.
Okay. I think what you said is really really important. It's there are things that I guess normal we'll call them normal. None of us are normal, but um, there are things that normal characters or the straight man in this case will say, right? These are spider eggs, or um, um, I'm a I'm a doctor, or whatever. It doesn't matter. And then, would you agree that the second person saying even the same thing again bolsters that first person, like makes them into this like complete narrative?
I think so, a little bit in some respect.
I don't think either one of us would have been as fully fleshed of a character without the other one.
Yeah, exactly. But you can do that to anyone. You can meet someone on a dock, have some short discussion where they say, "Oh yeah, I'm a doctor. That's my ship over there. You know, whatever." I'm thinking of Brackus right now with this red and blue ship, and then say a third person comes up and introduces themselves or whatever boring junk there is that, sorry, I called it boring. It's not supposed to be boring. Anyway, you don't have to introduce yourself as small talk if you hate it, right? You could say, "This man's a doctor. Doctor, look at his ship." And then when that guy says it, you've made his character like way more in depth, I would say, because there's a second person also agreeing with it, even though he just told you, you know? I
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think that it takes all of us. We're just shouting into the echo chamber. If there's not multiple of us to support each other and to further the story, it's like the museum wouldn't have worked if people didn't suspend disbelief and just throw themselves into the idea that it was all real.
Yeah. And what what sucks there is that sometimes you're in situations where like you're being pirated really aggressively and you still have to do it, and they are also like doing the same suspension but also the same bolstering, right? Because one pirate robbing you is just a person robbing you, but when you have two, they both lend credence to the other one to say, that person's a pirate and I'm a pirate, and the other says that person's a pirate and I'm a pirate. Like, as soon as there are two people, everything is more real, and sometimes that sucks. is my only thought.
Yeah. Yeah, it amplifies it. If there's, if people are going along with it, it can help amplify your story. or it can help amplify an idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't normally say to like the people, the world, like, hey, do this. But that is something you can definitely do if you're trying to help someone who's new, if you're trying to help someone who maybe doesn't say a lot. The idea of bolstering their story sort of just by saying the things they've already said, saying what you know about them, saying how long they've been there standing by themselves, all that junk. Just if you don't want to talk about yourself, try and help other people, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, we're here for the RP. So if you don't know what you want to do, or if you don't know what someone needs of you, then come up with something, anything. Do something physical. Like I say, if you don't know how to interact verbally with someone, do something unusual. Just catch their eye, get a conversation going about something. Mention the giraffes and say, I think, think there are spiders in their ears. They keep shaking their heads. Just figure out a way to involve other people, even if you can't come up with a storyline, if that makes sense.
We got something concrete. Nice work, everyone.
Yeah, and there was a situation in the last season that what I called strange RP, and basically these people came running up to us with buckets and throwing water on us, and they stood around us and basically started having this conversation back and forth with each other, but we couldn't get a word in edgewise, and it was just a strange interaction.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah, go ahead. I wasn't
there
there.
there was a group of them, and I think it was a combination of there were so many other people there, and they were with someone that wasn't part of their group, and it's like we were alone over to the side, and they all came to us, and this man points to us and says, "There's the fire right there," and they start dumping the buckets on us, but none of them, we know OOC that they're not together because they're not, in the same group, and we've seen the people before, but I see we've not met those people before. So it makes not strange RP for me, it's clumsy. It's like you're trying to figure out how to RP the situation and wondering at the same time. It's like you have to have two brains, one thinking what is going on, while the other one is trying to think how to respond.
Yeah, that's definitely something I try to understand more and more. Do you know why? First off.
Still have no clue.
Okay. So, do you think that there are occurrences like that, occurrences where maybe someone is going across your island with a fake name and a fake sneakiness and putting flags and some sort of silly dragon revenge kind of thing in hidden places? Do you think that there are a lot of things like that people say that, or people see, that are confusing and clumsy, like you said, or strange, or you have no idea what's happening, but there is a reason, and it's tied to a long backstory, and you just aren't included?
Sure. I'm perfectly happy not to be included. I mean, I understand that other people have storylines that are moving along, and there's not always time to include me, and that's fine. I don't think that I have to be a part of everybody's story. I want to be there if they want to be there,
Yeah, of course.
And there was that one situation where the mortar attack at the museum, and I was kind of wondering, why would somebody attack us, and what's going on? And it was an awkward situation and so forth.
Well, that was us, but not you. You were not included at all in that. In fact, you just happened to be there.
Okay. No, it something like that feels clumsy because it doesn't leave you a way to react. And there was like, okay, what is actually happening? That's like that two brain theory where it's like one brain is thinking, what in the world is going on? Like, is this person supposed to do this? Is it part of someone else's storyline? And then your other brain is thinking how to react to all this.
That one specifically I will avoid, but there.
No, we're not asking for an answer
No,
to
no,
that.
yeah,
I'm
no,
just,
I know. I was just, I could go into it, and I streamed it obviously, and I think you did too, and
we know there was something weird.
yeah.
And in character, you're thinking something weird is going on, and I don't quite know how to react to this. Or I'm sorry, out of character, you're thinking something weird is going on, and I'm not sure how to react. But in character, you've got to react. So
Yep.
then that's clumsy to me. I prefer to, and I'm not saying that there's not a storyline out there where I won't be included. That's fine. But when it's something really off base and you cannot figure out how it even or if it's like outside of the parameters of what's allowed, you still have to continue in RP, but you have to figure out how do I stumble over this?
You know what's so interesting about that I just thought of? Those events when they happen in real life are the things people love to watch. For example, flash
Oh, yeah.
mobs. Like, people love flash mob videos, right? The people who are there have no idea what's happening. They can't comprehend it. It's a bunch of people showed up, started doing something, right? That's so weird.
So next season we're going to do flash mobs. Okay, that's write it down.
I mean, well, first off, the scheduling of a flash mob in RP would be awful, and I would not be able to handle it anymore. But sure, I'm down occasionally, I guess. just getting 6 people on a ship makes me lose my mind. So I don't know if I can lead that. But, you know, if you want to lead flash mobs, let me know, and I'll try and be involved or something. You know what I mean?
If only Atlas could give you something different as far as emotions or dance that you didn't have the voices behind the dance.
True.
Speaking to things we don't like in game, I cannot stand diving. When you go inside the ship and it's moving around and you have the fluidity of the floating, it messes with my vertigo so bad that it makes me physically nauseous to go diving. So I don't ever do it. And I think it actually fed into the museum with so many horrendous things that are against you when you try to go diving because I hate it so much. I think I put that out there.
Yeah. The drunk effect, specifically in WoW, but also in Atlas, I hate that thing so much. It gives me a headache. And I don't drink personally, and I don't really want to put on, you know, alcohol type stuff on my stream because I don't do it, so I don't really understand it. So who am I to do it? But it's another reason for me to not drink in character because the way it looks makes my head hurt so much.
Yes.
And the pudding is the worst with the swirl.
Yeah,
I wish they could
definitely.
remove that.
Yeah.
The drinking in game, I hate drinking in game because it does the same thing. It gives me the nausea. And people try to ply you with alcohol in the game. And then you have the thing where you've got the perfect buff on your vitamins and you're like, I really don't want to drink this, but I'm going to make myself.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. You know, with everything you're saying. I'd like to ask you though. I touched on it a little bit. You are streaming now, or maybe you will, or something. Whatever. Hey, you started streaming a little bit. What's that been like?
Horrifying for me. It makes me sweat when I'm on stream because then I feel like it's that in front of a crowd feeling again. So The only way to get over that is just like with RP. When you jump into RP, you're going to be nervous. You're not going to know what to say. Same thing when you start streaming. You would think that I had figured it out through RP that it was okay. And it's a community of people that I'm seeing friendly names and I know these people. I'm still nervous because it's not my character anymore. It's back to being me.
And for me, the reason why I started streaming a little bit is to capture the moments, the memories of things. There's been times where we've had good interaction, and I would just like to capture that and catalog it and play it back sometime else in the future. There's been a real amazing RP that we've done in the past, even back on Dark Side, when the Navy had a ship battle, and we were right near the Navy island over another grid, and this woman showed up on a raft, and we had this amazing RP. She was crying, she was with the Navy, and she was running away, and we touched her in such a way that we gave her a penguin and gave her a ship and so forth.
Yeah, Simi talked to her and he was telling her something like, well, you have to branch out to see what you like. And then sometimes you realize you don't like what you thought you would. And she was wanting to go home. And then you say, well, we all need to go home eventually. So we helped her out and we sent her on her way. I still remember the character name, but I don't want to say that in case that storyline's still moving.
Okay. I I don't want to. Okay, people have been yelling at me for being generalizationalist or whatever for applying these broad statements to things, but I would like to tell you that it doesn't get any better when you're streaming. I don't think.
Well, I'm hoping so. I'm excited about it. I want to let people know a little bit more. I think it's what you're doing too. You're letting people know the behind the scenes, how the human mind thinks when it's RPing. So that helps people understand the RP a little bit better and get them, motivated to maybe try it or to get over the fear of it at least.
Maybe I won't ruin the surprise for you, but I started streaming the exact same reason, just to show people off who weren't doing it, who couldn't do it. I wasn't as Boxster because he was Boxster. I would zoom in into first person and say nothing for like huge long stretches, and all this stuff would play out in front of me, and that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted to stream. And being on stream, you're always thinking and looking at something else in addition to everything that's happening. And also sometimes people can see you, and sometimes you say stupid junk, and I'm stuck where I am, I think. Yeah.
I think streamers are very vital because we wouldn't be in RP had we not watched other streamers. And it's not just the seeing of the RP play out, it's knowing the motivation that went into it. Knowing, and you don't get that without the streamer. You don't get to know what's in the person's head. Why did they make that choice? They did something so stupid that, I'm thinking it's stupid, but then you hear it explained by the streamer and you realize it's brilliant. So you have to have the streamer to get that though.
Yeah, okay. So you both starting out streaming and also clearly watch streams. What are some things that streamers do that you want to do in your own stream and you think other streamers should do as well?
I think that's a tough question to answer there.
I like the idea of fostering a sense of community, bringing people together who may be in the same game world that you're in or in the same mindset that you're in. And you can give a sense of community to a group of people that can hang out and make jokes and inside jokes. And I think it takes a while to get there, but I think once you're in that sweet spot, it makes it really, really nice.
Yeah, I've never had another blanket statement. I've never had an active chat. I guess I will ruin the surprise for you. Honk, our peers don't talk. You can have 20 people in watching your stream and they will not speak because some of them came from a raid and they're not there anymore. Some of them are doing their own RP and you're muted. Some of them are just there to support you, and that's great. But before this season, I've never had so many people speak at all. Like, it was crazy. And I agree that it's this
I think you're getting to the sweet spot.
I think I did exactly what you said. I have 2 or more, maybe, inside jokes. Technically 3. And I saw them over and over and over again come out of the mouths of other characters, and also chat did it just like Neuro did it. The honk thing, bad-mouthing the Navy, and saying, "Wow, cool castle," are all like these inside jokes that sort of came from here, right? And they're not even from this season. They're from last season, and they've never been used like this. So I don't know if you can find a sweet spot. I think you just wind up in it for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that, and I think it grows over time, hopefully. And your chat, if you attract a certain crowd that's like you and they're like-minded as you, they're going to enjoy watching you, but they're going to enjoy talking to each other. And I don't think that they even have to interact with the streamer if they're enjoying interacting with each other in a way.
And in some respect, I've seen what you've done with the loyalty and people honking and you bad mouthing the Navy, and you use that to get your chat involved, and you actually turn around and use that in your RP to honk during the wedding. You kept doing that over and over. It was just hilarious.
Okay. You both made me realize I'm asking the wrong question, because I'm not the community. Like, I'm streaming to show you what I want to show you. I'm showing you, the not behind the scenes even, because I don't even do that. I'm showing you interactions that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. And the reason I felt so included in other people's channels is because I felt like it was a community in those channels, right? Like, I know some of those people, they're there all the time. If I say something, they say something to me. I'm asking the wrong question. What can viewers do to promote the community that they're viewing? That's what I should be asking. And the answer is, say some junk in chat to the other people in chat. If there's 3 of you, say some junk.
It's RP again. You're in chat RPing with other people. You're interacting without the video portion, You're just interacting again. So talk to people in chat. Welcome new people to chat, whatever it takes.
I say some junk a lot. Yeah.
We've never noticed.
Look, Samson said it more, so then I say it more. I can't stop. And whatever.
I know I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I push my voice when I talk in character, and I have no clue how you did as much coughing as you did. and still were able to talk or have a voice left at the end of a stream, it would have ravaged my voice.
Yeah, it's well, no, I told somebody like I was running out of breath all the time, and I originally was trying to stop, or trying not to make it audible, but eventually I was like, F it, I don't care. You know, if you hear me go like this, that's what you're gonna hear, because I was running out of breath all the time.
Well, the Bogatha voice started as Nanette Garbage, and I was pushing it because I didn't have a voice modulator at all, and I was pushing my voice, and I actually lost my voice twice and could not stream for a couple of days until I was able to rest. So I just wondered if you had had any kind of issue with it, because I know what it's like.
It just hurt my abs sometimes, my stomach, because I am like pushing. But what's interesting is people are all like, "Oh, how can you do Pierre's voice all the time?" That's easy to me. Boxster's voice would like shred my throat all the time, man. Like, oh man. And it just made it even more because it just made it deeper and deeper and deeper. So eventually it was just super deep and I was just shredded all the time.
It's a huge problem when you're playing a female character and then the voice gets shredded and you're like, oh no, I can't speak at all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I had a female character. Her name was Maddie. And I practiced her voice every day for like a month or more, trying to get her voice right. And I would do the same things over and over until, you know, I got it, but I can't do it anymore because I need all of this practice just to get back to it. And these voices
and
are...
you also had Madam Whistletooth.
That was just Samson's voice though.
Madam Tooth. No, we intentionally were trying to just come up with some kind of insanity over that. Like it was obviously just a one-off droppable character, but we just wanted to live in the moment a little bit more, and we kind of came up with all these weird names, and we just kept pushing each other. And that's where iTEAguy is good, because he was picking up on these things I was putting down, so to speak.
Yeah, of course.
And with that, it created such a RP because you said, "Do you have any popcorn?" And then from there, we offered the popcorn out, and Chloe came along, and she had a nervous reaction that fist came out, and so we turned it into an RP situation where she slid across the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, the give and take, like Hidalgo said, is super good and super smooth, but as iBite asked, are these your characters? Are you going to try something new? Can you do things separately, do you think?
Hidalgo remembers us also as Simeon Sheldon when we were with Goldview. I remember him as well. He was running with Ewok at the time, and we actually went to where they were breeding we went to their island where they were breeding wolves, and I can't remember if the wolves were also called foxes. I think it was the color pattern.
that might have been me. But anyway, go on.
Oh, okay. I did hear foxes, and I was like, was that because of the color of them? But yeah, and we went to where they were at the Freeport doing adoptions and things, and I think he saw our interplay back then, and we had a very similar interplay with each other when we were Simeon Sheldon, just as we do when we're Boggart and Bogatha. Mm-hmm. And going forward, I don't know. We're in debate of keeping these characters. I've been Bogatha for about a year, and I was Simi for about a year, and in between I was Simi's grandmother, who was Nanette Garbage, and I also like last season, we played Nan Grimble and what was your name? Bernard Lowe. We played Grimble Lowe oddities, but yeah, we I forget the question. I've gone too far now.
Can you do things separately, or are you so comfortable and so tied that you don't think you can?
We can be separate, but I get nervous. Here we go again, talking about internal nerves. But I get nervous when I'm alone more so than when I'm with someone, and I need him because what he does is he's the brave one, and he'll walk up to somebody and talk to him first, and I'm still not comfortable doing it. I do it, but I'm not comfortable with it. And he has a certain comfort level with approaching someone. And like if someone shoots a flare, I start to sweat like, oh God, here we go. Like, what's it going to be? And he doesn't sweat it. He's like, all right, cool. And then I have to then jump in later. But I'm the weird character, and you can't like smack someone in the face with the weird character first. So it's almost like you have to have both.
I feel this like people say this junk to me over and over. Sorry, not junk. Your answers are not junk. I'm sorry.
It's all junk.
Okay, so people say the same similar answers, like we talked about. People are nervous, people are worried, and all of that, right? And then they say, oh, your character's great. I love the experience. I love talking to your character. I love your stream. All of that stuff, right? But it's so weird to me that people don't seem to understand that we're all the same, and that like when I wrote A Brief Chat with Time, I was cool. I was writing with chat. It was good. And then if you listen back to it, like halfway through, I stopped speaking because I'm weeping and I can't handle it anymore, right? But I gotta finish. So I'm like freaking typing junk or whatever, like silently crying. Like, you're not weird for being worried and scared and all that stuff. It's all of us. We're all freaking doing it,
Sure. I mean, everyone has nerves. It's some people mask them well, some people push them down, and some people use them to their advantage. And I think in RP, in a way, we use our nerves to our advantage sometimes to push characters.
That's an interesting idea. Use it.
Yeah, use it. Use those nerves to catalyze a character. Maybe it is a nervous character. If you can't shake your nerves, be a nervous character and play it out.
Be a character who has to hide in order to say his poems out loud. Perfect. Yep. Here we are.
Just speak through the crack of the door like you did back at the museum for the one poem that you read to us.
Oh man, that one I was good for, and I thought, man, this is so cool. Like, this is a well-known poem that someone's going to recognize. Here's this idea that fits in with like their theme. Like, oh man, what a cool thing. I wanted to give that to you, and I thought that was really cool, right?
Yeah. Cool. And you're a wonderful artist, and we were not trying to knock your painting by calling it a drowned raccoon or anything. I was trying to feed you some RP, and I never in game ever want to make anyone feel diminished in any way. I think that's very important.
Yeah. So that touches on another idea I was trying to come up with or work through. The idea of sailing, which I know you didn't do a lot, but we were talking about like best practices or whatever, and being conscious of other players and stuff. So Denver and I think talked about like a zone of RP around the captain, because the captain can't move unless you're me, and you will sail AFK. But the captain doesn't normally move, right? So they're stuck on the wheel, and it's limiting to your RP because you want to talk and you want to goof off and you want to chat and you want to do all this stuff. So if a ship has this zone around the captain that is like the RP zone, then they're included all the time. And then elsewhere, you can have like a zone where I got to go AFK for while we sail, so I will go over there. That is something I want to like think about more and try and promote, because when I'm painting, I'm doing it for a long time because I'm doing it in front of you, and I am streaming also, and I can't provide anything while I'm doing it except talking, because I can't even talk in game, right? So when you talk, when you look at the painting, when you say some junk, like I'm in it, but I don't necessarily have to respond.
And I think, I was trying to sort of feed your chat, feed your stream in a way by saying things like, "Oh, it's a drowned raccoon, and one side of the mouth tips down further than the other." And I knew that you couldn't reply, but that made it funnier for me and hopefully for your chat that you were sort of trapped in that situation. So I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just trying to sort of feed you,
Yeah, of course. I think that's what we should do, because there's a lot of times where oh man, this thing I do not do, but when other people organize the resources, oh my gosh, I can't stand it. It feels like you're just wasting time. But I can tell you about where I went, and I could tell you about my day, and I could tell you all sorts of junk, and just like slap you in the face with random RP that you wouldn't normally get just organizing the dumb resources.
Some of that feeds into what we do in our real life. I hate paper. I wish I could burn every scrap of paper in the game. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to write on paper. I don't want to keep up with orders that people have placed. I hate all of that minutiae because I push papers all day long. So I don't want to go into RP and push more papers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's. I think that's one of the takeaways that I have from this whole interview thing. Like, being conscious of people and how they are playing, and not necessarily just how your character would respond to it. But at the same time, like, we're people too. So if someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to organize this resource box and I need to pee," then I mean, let me open my inventory, pretend like I'm helping, and like that's cool too. So it's this kind of balance, I
get it. I pushed papers in game. I kept up with stuff. I did it all, and I did it because the other person probably didn't want to do it either. So I'm doing it, but it was so nice this season. We didn't handle papers. There was so much we did not do. We weren't out. We weren't. Another thing, I can't repair a ship constantly. It also plays with my vertigo really bad, because you have to run and run and run, and the ship is moving up and down, and it's shaking if you're being hit by cannon fodder. And it's too much for me sometimes. So it's pleasant when you're just standing flat in a museum sometimes.
And for me, playing this character, it allowed me to get out of that role of being a trader. In previous seasons, it was like set up a trade bay and set up trade routes and deliver goods and all this stuff. And with the new farmhouses, it was like, well, people are just going to get what they need. And in previous seasons, as a trader, it's like they order one giant order and never come back for the RP for additional orders.
Yeah. I don't trade. Have you heard my theory about leech RP and all that stuff? Whatever. Yeah, I'll say it again.
That you've had, yes, we've heard some of it.
All right, so I'm working on this other theory through these interviews recently that like I know how I play. I play a leech character. I don't gather. I don't breed. I don't farm. I don't build. Well,
We
okay, I build. Sure, but
need that. The RP community needs people to burn resources. We need people to steal resources. I'd like pirates that just stole resources. I know you can't empty a resource chest on a ship. That would be cruel. But I'm just saying that somehow they don't take your coin. They steal your resources, and then you have to therefore have it. You know, it just adds a different layer to it.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you agree because the ships that I had out on the seas had the heavier resources. So I'd like to see a pirate take those and throw them overboard.
Yeah, that's I stole junk as a pirate. But before that, as Pierre, we stole a bunch of like building materials and stuff because that's what I needed. Because I made a whole leech company. I'd like to think where I punished work. So we had to go out and we had to get from other people. That's why I stole just dumb resources from you, even though you didn't know. I'm working on that and trying to think of how I could have made it better. But like,
No, we need that. We need people to come in. Were you the one that cannoned our house? Did
No.
you blow
No.
okay.
no,
Someone
no,
did.
no,
Um,
no.
But no, we need that. And even the cannoning of the house was interesting. It was like, oh, okay, that's different. But I think we as a community, we need the interplay. If let's say you were running a police server and everyone was police and there were zero criminals, how interesting could the server get at that point?
Yeah. I don't see a whole lot of interesting stuff there, but it could go in weird ways, I guess.
Sure. I mean, you can always make RP, but I'm saying that it's going to add depth to the world. The world's going to be thin if everybody is the same type of character. But you need that depth of, you need an angry character. You need a mean character. You need something to be fearful of. You need something to laugh about. And that adds multiple layers to your RP world, which makes it better for everyone in the long run.
Yeah, Samson stole a figurehead. I wrote a narrative in my head, and it did not play out the way I thought it would. And I'm happy that it had a story, and I'm happy that I got to do some kind of like sort of drama stuff. But I didn't feel super comfortable about it. It wasn't like what I thought in my head. Anyway, so back to my thought, I guess. So we have these leech characters, right? I also think there are progression characters, progression players who push stories, who take people with them, who grab your hand and pull you onto a ship or whatever. And then I also think there are facilitator players and characters, and that those people are, and you can blend between all of them, sure, but the facilitation RP is more about getting all the materials and actually sailing for the trade and making sure that an event has food or a water barrel, even. Like, that's all facilitation RP, whereas the other two characters don't necessarily think about it or do it.
Well, you say that you were a leech character, but you were holding events and you were also doing some construction for those events and things like that. So you weren't exactly a leech character, but I see what you mean. If I think of what Bagatha would have thought of you, Bagatha did not think of you or your character as a leech to her.
Of course.
So it's,
Well, so when I say leech, Gobtube and I, we do not gather. We do not breed. We do not do any of that stuff. If there is not another person, we may do it just to keep alive, like we'll gather berries like he said or whatever, but we do not gather. And
what we were doing also, where you were a leech character, we were lore building. So we were trying to deepen the world. We were trying to give the world this sense of it escaped the boundaries of where we were. There were these islands we had visited. There were things that we had brought back with us from regions beyond, you know, and we were bringing all that together to help build a lore to deepen the world. But at the same time, we also wanted to shake up the status quo. We didn't, you know, by bringing things in that didn't exist, it helps to shake things up in the world. And so everybody has their part to play. If we had not done that, I think the season would have been somewhat different had we not been there to shake up the world, and had you not been there to play a leech character and help create a need. Like, imagine how much RP you gave the Caldecots just because they could not, you know, they had to do things. And that gave them RP, and it gave them RP with you when you would show up. So it was needed. It was every person is vital in RP.
I definitely agree. I don't necessarily want to categorize everyone and everything. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's also helpful to players to sort of understand other players by saying, oh, you fit into this category, sort of, or whatever. Do you think that lore building is its own category? Because when I tell people I'm a leech character, they say, you're an RP only character. And I'm like, yeah, obviously. Do you think that there's another category?
Oh, sure. When I say we're lore building, we're all lore building. Everyone is building some kind of lore for their character, for the world, or for another character. But by saying we were lore building, we were just doing so much condensed lore. Like, we were packing it all into one place you could come and leave with a lot of things you could talk about. So when you hit the seas, let's say we never really fully fleshed out the selling on the ship, and you're trapped as the captain and you can't really do much. But we were trying to give people things they could talk about. When they would leave our museum, hopefully when they hit the seas, whoever was piloting the ship could be involved in a conversation about all of the weird things that they had seen.
Interesting. I in my mind and in my theory that I'm working on, obviously it's just a random theory and it doesn't matter. I would characterize you two separately. I would say that KelleScope is progression and IT Guy is facilitation, because in my theory, the progression type player, the progression type character, they push stories, right? So IT Guy might get you that introduction, and then you come in and you progress a story, and then IT Guy might swap into leech or progression as well, or whatever, because we can all play different roles. But if I had to overarchingly say that, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's a new category of lore building, because as you said, we're all doing it. So you aren't just progressing your company's story, you were progressing everyone's story together, both of you, and then as the straight man, as the introduction, as the person clipping scissors behind the bookshelf or whatever, he was facilitating as well as progressing, I would say.
A very vital part of all of it. Very vital part.
But it is just theory.
I kind of agree with that as well.
Oh gosh, I'm such a fangirl, but I say all the time how Slick really impacted me and how much I think Slick's character that I met originally is important to me and all this junk, and I've told him a bunch of times, and I've said it a bunch of times. I would say that Slick even sees himself as facilitation. He's the person who's not necessarily getting everyone on a ship to go out, but he will help build the ship and help build the building, and he will help you know where resources are, and he will do all that stuff depending on the character he's playing. And then if you are the progression person, he's helping you
these bits in my butt.
with all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think facilitation RP is the most important part because it props all the rest of us up. Basically.
Absolutely. And it keeps us from burning out, because if some of us are involved in very deep story pushing, we'll burn out quickly if we're also involved in, getting there.
Thank you, Coanthro, for the bits. So on his facilitation, I've told him a bunch of times, like he told me in his interview that he was like a small time character or whatever, and I was like, dude, to me you were like so important because you made the world real. There's all these people who think my character doesn't matter. They're small time, whatever. They don't go out. They don't do anything. They're always just there sitting, or they're just in the back. But you just, as we said over and over again, just by having a second person, both characters are a whole world and super real, and it's really important.
We didn't go into this season thinking that we would be important. I don't think everyone needs to feel important necessarily. We didn't feel like we were going to be important at all. And we just wanted to, like I say, we had the museum before. We had the same people coming back, but we only had 3 to 4 people. Mm-hmm. So we never really saw many people on the server, and the people that we did see kept returning. And that was just as vital to us as this last season. We gave tours at the museum to 1 person. We gave tours at the museum to 20 people. And both ways were equally as vital. You didn't get a less of a tour if you were 1 person, because the player deserves that.
Yeah. Not that I've been reading my questions, but I'm pretty sure I'm out of questions. Let me scan through real quick. I'd like to say before, wrapping up or whatever, there was no face on those Cyclops feet, and I have no idea what you're talking about. For the record.
I could see it, but not everybody could. You had to roll your mouse wheel forward, and you had to get down, and you had to look into it. But you could see a face if you were able, but not everybody was able to.
I could trying.
I could actually see like 3 different faces. The one that was the most humorous was the one that it looked like it had a mouth wide open, and almost like the eyes were raised high, like it was in shock. And I thought, that's hilarious. I hope at least somebody can see this, but some people could and some couldn't.
That's funny. I mean, like, sort of saw them a little bit kind of fuzzy maybe, but I didn't see it, I guess. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I still looked every time and talked about it to other people and stuff, so it didn't matter. Like, if I'm gonna make up how something tastes, I'm gonna make up the faces on the freaking feet. Like, I'll just make it up.
People were so good to play along with us and allow the stories to play out, because people could have thought we were really weird, and instead they didn't, and that was nice.
Yeah.
And that was the nice thing about the museum, is when people did react to certain things. You had Tiny that licked several of the exhibits, and the sheep infatuation, and those little items. If you notice, the disclaimer kept getting longer and longer. It was from those interactions that we had with people, and we would throw those in to the disclaimer.
Yeah. Outlaw Deputy said that it changed every time, and that was good for the tour people because she had been on so many of them she said that, they were all so different because of the weirdness that would happen and the interactions that would have. Something was always different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as soon as there's another person, it's different, right? So that's really cool.
I have a question though. Which one did you have a favorite oddity, or did you have an oddity that you liked? I mean, you don't have to have a favorite necessarily.
I
just always found myself wondering when we'd give the tour. Some people would react to one over another one, and then some people would choose a completely. Some people like the bear rug, and I would think the bear rug, and it was, to me, it was a little bit of a throwaway. And then I had other ones that I focused so hard on that to me were like a whole different echelon, so to speak.
So like I said at the beginning, I know how some of them work. So the ones that were interesting to other people didn't work on me. But there were all like the ones where the fish, were all like, it was like 6 fish or whatever all put together. The first time, wow, look at this thing they've made. That's so cool. But it lost it over time. The ones that really stuck with me were the ship, that the like blue area with the shimmer that you talked about. I really liked that one because it was so like big and pretty, and sometimes you couldn't see the figure and sometimes you could, and I thought that was really cool. So I liked that one, and I liked the toenail one and the teeth one, because in those two, when you told them, I felt like they changed. Like not that the story changed, but like you would emphasize different parts, and like a bunch of the fish, it obviously you were doing it, but you were just running through the script, right? You had told the story a bunch of times and you were giving the people the tour, just like tour guides do, right? But those two specifically felt that you emphasized multiple different parts. So those are the 3 that like really stick out to me. Whereas, for example, the elephant or the 2 elephants trunk together, I didn't even understand the story until the 3rd time when I was trying to tell the story, and I went, what is this story? And I was like, oh yeah, these elephants killed whatever trainer or whatever, and this was in the box and like all this stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what the story is. So
well, when I put those 2 elephants together, it felt light. It was like, oh, this is a little on the light side, so it needs a level of depth to it. And I put in I realized I could put in a casket and then sort of flesh it out.
Do you have anything, both of you, because I do have another interview coming, do you have anything you'd like to tell new players or players who have never even RP'd before?
Well, the first thing is to download Atlas and get started.
Know your game. Yes, that's important, because when we started out, we really didn't know the game. I didn't even know exactly where to go or what to do, or there was so much to figure out. It would have been nice to have known a little bit more before I dove headfirst, but diving headfirst in is also an option.
I'll disagree with you real quick, because I learned every single thing in the game, without, stuff outside, and everything means more to me because of that. But carry on.
So I would tell a new player who is just green, not to be worried that they're going to say the wrong thing. That's what haunted me when I would try to speak early on, is I'm going to say the wrong thing. It's okay. Everybody does. And remember that everyone has had their first experience. You may meet somebody who is very well adept at this, but they've had their first experience and they remember being you, and they will give you the grace to make your mistakes, hopefully, because they know that they had to have that learning curve as well. So don't be scared. Jump in. Enjoy yourselves. If you're not enjoying it, why would you be doing it anyhow?
True. So, download the game and don't be scared. God,
I know that's probably not a unique answer for us, but it's just, I'm trying to think. The fear is, I think the fear is the thing you have to overcome to get into the RP.
I'll be honest. No one's ever said download the game before. It's pretty funny. So
don't forget that part. Like I said, he is a vital component to all this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I agree. Obviously, you're right. It's not a unique answer, but that's the whole point. None of us, while we are unique and we play unique characters, our experience is not unique. We all have the same worry and the same fear and the same excitement and the same amazement when we see things like even just downloading a mod and playing, like, we still can have that amazement of, wow, look at this, look what they've done here, look at the colors, look at all of that stuff. So
we did, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, carry on. I'm done.
We did a lot of unique things this season that we've never done before. So it's always changing. You may be a character that, is just wanting to do something small. You may want to be a character that's doing something large. And I'll speak back to what I said earlier when I said that if you are afraid to talk in game, this is unique coming from me, then don't be afraid to do something physical to attract attention or to make yourself known.
Yeah.
I did it.
A lot of us forget the physicality and the space that is in the game. Denver said he went and stood next to another character multiple times, and she said in chat, I recognized that the literal space is important, and you can use that if voice is, like, if you're worried about voice being your first thing, use space instead. You're exactly correct.
Mm-hmm. And like Bagatha would stand near Elias when he was around, because to Bagatha, Elias was a sympathetic character. Mm-hmm. She had a sympathy for him. I don't know if that was his intent, but that's where she felt sympathetic towards him. She felt sympathetic towards Chloe, because Chloe felt like sometimes she was on the outside of her family in conversations that we would have. And so there was another sympathy there. And she felt for those characters.
Yeah.
And Elias still gets the Employee of the Month.
Well done. Did you expect to have an employee underneath you?
No. We had people who actually, we had a character that wanted to RP with us, mm-hmm. but was very new to the sea, very green, very fresh. And it's like, we don't have a lot to teach you through these characters. True. Because these characters are very narrow and there's not a lot of mechanics that they're involved with in the game that you really need to know, that you really need to learn from other people in the game.
Okay, I can see that.
And we had people that wanted to search for oddities or bring us oddities. It's not easy because we also reach a visual limit and a tour limit. And, we could have kept adding oddities till the end of time, but when the tour is 3 hours long, who's going to enjoy it? So we really had to fine tune everything.
True.
And we had one person that kept gliding over the museum, and there was something in the museum that would just basically hang the person, and so they would stick in midair.
I honestly started to think that that museum had so many bizarre things that happened around it that it was almost like it was an oddity. It was haunted.
Well, I mean, you succeeded in creating that air to the point
Oh,
that
sure.
you felt it too.
Oh yeah.
To add on to the things that are completely unique that we're saying, surprise, I gotta pee. I don't know why I'm like this. I just drink while you talk, and now I'm screwed. But yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out. And I did shout you both out in stream. So if you aren't streaming, then check it out. Like, check these people out. They're maybe gonna continue streaming. I have no idea. I'm not gonna put that on them, but check them out.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you.
And thank you for having me on, and thank you for being you as well. And come on, let's get some honks in the chat there.
Don't make them burn their points, those poor people. They're trying
No.
to build up a perma. I'll just honk. I don't care. Ooh, you know what's
Oh
fun?
God, you've got a built perma. Oh no.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're never gonna make it. Well, Slick has one already.